The rugby world, Rob, that's obviously some of your top rate stories this past week have been around the Springboks and former current players coming out and or speaking out over the state of SA rugby. More recently, Skalkberger blaming players applying their trade overseas, particularly, or how he kind of called it, the missing middle. You know, we've got lots of young talent and lots of old experienced players, but the guys in between aren't there. Dwayne Vermeulen blaming administrators. We've got this coaching indaba this week, and guys like Nick Mallet have turned down the invite, saying that it's not going to help. Also pointing at administration. What have you taken and what have you written about over the past week on this subject?
Yeah, look, it's very turbulent times. There are no clear-cut roads ahead. I mean, people are right to be cynical over the indaba, but at the same time, you know, I suppose in Saru's defence, they've got to be seen to be doing something. An indaba is perhaps better than no indaba. The big stumbling block, of course, is they are going to be missing certain key personnel. Heineke Meyer, for fairly mysterious reasons at this point, which we're busy trying to establish, is not going to be there. He was the past coach, the most immediate past coach, and funnily enough, his second year was actually his best in the national fold. So he would have been a very useful presence. When you think that Alistair Coetzee is only three tests away from moving into his second year in charge, so he could have potentially benefited from hearing some of Heineke Meyer's thoughts, whether you like Heineke or not. His record in the second year, apart from against the All Blacks, was extremely good. And so him not being there is not great. Nick Mallet obviously would have been a sort of populist choice to be there and to certainly not to sort of mouth any soft platitudes. He would have been very blunt and direct, and who knows, maybe they don't want to hear too much blunt and direct. But as you said, they are getting it now from certain ex-players, which is quite interesting. Well, not ex-players, but players who might still play a part. Apparently, Dwayne Vermeulen is very much in the mix for the end-of-year tour, and rightly so. I still think he's a world-class player, and we don't have too many of them around at the moment. But it is interesting that he's joining the dissenters in a sense, that he's actually almost now having a little bit of a go at the South African rugby structures for what's going on, and for especially the exodus of players. You know, they talk about solving issues like fitness. I don't know how that's ever going to be resolved, because while we've got players blatantly going and playing rugby during off seasons, what possible conditioning can you do? What sort of rest can these players get? All we do is every year we filter in already tired players, guys carrying niggles into the next Super Rugby cycle, into the next Springbok cycle. And it just repeats itself year after year, and things just get worse and worse. So even young players now are being flogged to death. We're seeing it from even the young gems like Eben Etzebeth, so highly touted sort of 2 or 3 years ago. I think he's pretty close to sort of not expiry, that would be absurd. I mean, he's still incredibly young. But in terms of sort of having almost plateaued, I think there's a danger that he's sort of going to hit a plateau unless he does have a proper sort of off-season. Especially tight forwards need to have off-seasons. And, you know, money talks. These guys are being lured by short-term, slightly longer-term offers from especially places like Japan, where they can still stay involved with a South African franchise, yet have an off-season topping up their incomes. So there are no easy solutions. So I'm a little bit cynical about the exercise, but let's give it its chance. Let's see what comes out of it. Let's see if there's a sort of a tangible plan and certain directives that do come out.